I remember 10 years ago what working in the sex industry in Calgary, Alberta was like. About 10 years ago, if you got a bad date and you called a battered women's shelter and asked for help, you were not allowed in because you're not considered an intimate violence, an intimate partner of violence. You were not considered to be a victim of violence. And I remember when I called a battered women's shelter after I got beat up and robbed by John, I remember the worker telling me basically indirectly it was my fault. That they only deal with battered women, women who get beat up by their husbands and wives, not battered sex workers. And I also remember about 10 years ago, the issue with the church and sex industry. I remember how I was asked to leave a women's Christian shelter because the exact words were, "This is a Christian organization and your kind's not welcome here." And so I was given a lifetime ban, and I fought it, and I got back in 3 months later. And so it just like in 10 years where sex workers were like ostracized and marginalized on the sides of society, where today we're celebrating our right to be who we are. We have the right to be safe. We have the right to work. We deserve police protection like any other Canadian. And so we've come a long way. I also remember 10 years ago, as I'm sure the majority of the women in Vancouver, I wasn't here at the time, but how if you were a sex industry worker, whether you're working survival sex or like in, like running your own agency, if you got a bad date and you contacted the police, they wouldn't do anything really about it. If you went missing and you worked in the sex industry, the police wouldn't look for you. And they actually put on your file, your police file, non-human individual, NHI. And so that you had the equivalence of a dog. So when people, when your file hit the back of the shelf, the police, the police would look at it, they just kept putting it back and back and back, and they just never looked for you. And as a result of that, we now know what happened to the women in the downtown east side. They were picked up and murdered by a serial killer, and the police didn't do anything about it because they viewed them to be non-human individuals, not worth your time. And so this landmark is going to force police to protect us. It's going to force police to take us seriously, and police have to accept us as human beings and listen to our complaints when we call, when we got beat up, when we're pimped out, when we've been human trafficked, when we've been exploited, like whatever it may be. And so, yeah, so it's a good day today.